Hello everybody, this is Gunsage. I want to do something a little bit different today. I was asked to talk to you about my personal memories involving the Neo Geo for user Charlie Cat in his Neo Geo thread. As you know, Summer Fight Nights is a series where I put on a fighting game and attempt to play it while limiting myself on continues. As a result, I've gone through several Neo Geo games as they produced a lot of fighting games. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, I played a lot of arcade games, mostly at my local bowling alley where my mom went for league night. I'd play a number of the classics such as Road Blasters, Final Fight, Street Fighter II, Road Riot 4-Wheel Drive, Super Off-Road, Pit Fighter, and a number of others along with some pretty sweet pinball machines too. In the early 90s, they opened a Walmart fairly close to the bowling alley. I'd never been to a Walmart before, and, well, growing up in Indiana, anything new was interesting to me. At the entrance, they had a Neo Geo cabinet. This was the first time I'd ever seen one, and I was immediately glued to it. First of all, the games looked way advanced in comparison to the other arcade games I've been used to. Second, each Neo Geo cabinet had the capacity for holding up to 4 different Neo Geo games. In this case, they had Fatal Fury, Last Resort, Nom 1975, and Cross Swords, all of which were fun titles. There were actually a number of times I snuck out of the bowling alley while my mom was there to go check out the cabinet, especially because they would swap out the games on there every so often. The thing is, I was always frustrated by the console ports. Sure, the actual Neo Geo console had the same hardware as the arcade cabinets as far as I know, but the Super Nintendo ports were awful. Let me just give you a side-by-side real quick and you'll see what I mean.
Round 1.
Fight! Yeah! Ha! Yeah! Yeah! Man, let go! Yeah! 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 Ha! Yeah! 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 Oh, wait! Man, let go! Yeah! Yeah! Ha! Yeah! Yeah!
I understand that the Super Nintendo and Genesis couldn't quite match the raw hardware power of the Neo Geo, but I literally didn't know anyone that owned a Neo Geo console back in the day. And to be honest, it's no surprise. The game magazines I used to check out would quote the Neo Geo console at $500, and individual games at about $100 a piece. I don't know how accurate that is, as I never actually went to try to purchase one myself, and never knew of anywhere to purchase one back in the day. But if the prices the magazine reflected were correct, it's a wonder anyone owned the console at all. The other problem, of course, is variety. Oh, don't get me wrong, the Neo Geo had shooters, brawlers, fighters, puzzles, sports, and even action games, but that's about it. The console was geared toward playing arcade games, not console games. What I'm saying here is there are a lot of console games that don't attempt to be arcade games in that they are designed with the home user in mind. So for example, they might not have a timer, or might be a game that's designed to take quite a bit longer to beat, or something to allow the player to get more out of a console experience. In other words, no RPGs, simulations, artsy games, or what have you. Sure, if all you play is sports or fighting games, then whatever. However, if you play a wide variety of different types of games and you're looking to do so on a budget, this was clearly not the way to go. And while one could argue that they were far more economical from an arcade cabinet angle, that's only assuming arcades were still around. I first started noticing arcades drying up right around 2006. The DDR craze had died down, various peripheral-based games and the like had been successfully ported with their own versions to consoles, such as Guitar Hero, and even more impressive games that were really fun to play in the arcades weren't quite competing with being able to do everything from your PC or even your console, as they were starting to go online as well. And as sad as that is, since arcades were a social hangout where I could play games with other people, especially as those people got more and more busy, myself included, it simply became easier to try to arrange games late night on Call of Duty or Castle Crashers or whatever, rather than to try to stalk an arcade in the middle of the afternoon. How I will remember the Neo Geo is as an arcade console that continuously tried to push the limits of how we envisioned arcades at the time. Even though Fatal Fury seems somewhat dated, there were countless games spawned from its success, and that is to say nothing of the third-party titles as well as several of the other games I haven't even played on the show yet because they're not fighting games. Much like the TurboGrafx 16, the system did not do well in the console market because of how prohibitively expensive it was. They rocked the arcades, however, and for me at least, that really defined arcades in the 90s.